Yo guys, what is up? Max in our Borderlands 4 video, and today we're going to be going over my leveling guide to Rafa. Now, Rafa is the Exo Soldier. They have a bunch of crazy gadgets and cool things that they can do with their exosuit. This build guide is going to be focusing on their Peacebreaker cannons, which I think are their absolute best action skill for leveling and even pushing into the end game. They can do some absolutely crazy damage once you get into the capstone skills and start really putting a build together, specifically focusing on ricochets, which this build is going to do. However, even though this build is focusing on ricochets, it's going to be great at killing bosses as well. It kind of has the full package. You're fast. You do a ton of damage in an area, so much so that you don't actually have to shoot your guns. You can just use your Peacebreaker cannons to kill basically anything in front of you, and you can nuke bosses. It's really, really powerful. I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. Let's get right into it. So starting with his skill tree, in your first row, you've got increased gun damage. Rafa and your Peacebreaker cannons gain increased fire rate and shield recharge delay and rate. We're absolutely going to be spending those points into fire rate. The reason this is so nice is because it increases your damage, but it also increases your Peacebreaker cannons damage. That's going to be a big focus for us, while also not neglecting our gun damage. Then at level 6, you're going to unlock your first augment. Now, Instantito is always going to be good. It gives your Peacebreaker cannons basically 50% crit chance whenever you press your reactivate skill, and whenever you're hitting enemies with crits, you're going to restore these. So I really like Instantito. It's going to give your Peacebreaker cannons a lot of damage. However, Bullet Buddy Deluxe is also quite nice. It allows you to regen ammo and also allow your shots to not consume ammo. If you come across any Jacob shotguns with only one bullet in the mag, this is really nice because it turns your gun that you have to reload in between every shot to something that you can kind of spam. There are a few other cool guns to pick up, but if you do find a Jacob shotgun that you really like, I'd recommend using Bullet Buddy Deluxe. If you're not using a one in the mag Jacob shotgun, most of the time I would go Instantito. It's going to give your Peacebreaker cannons a lot of damage, but also increase their uptime. Next, we're going to put 5 out of 5 into Werga, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. This reads that whenever we critically hit an enemy, we get our action skill duration restored. It is on a 4-second cooldown. However, we can basically add to our Instantito so that we can constantly keep our action skills up. Peacebreaker cannons are going to be really awesome early on, especially if you don't have a super fantastic weapon. These things will carry you, so that's why we're investing so much into their uptime. Next, we've got a few things for damage reduction, skill damage, shield breaks, and damage dealt. We're going to put 3 points into increased skill damage. Skill damage increases the Peacebreaker cannons. The way that it works is all action skills benefit from skill damage, but not all skills benefit from action skill damage. So this will increase our Peacebreaker cannons damage even more. And then I just put 2 points into El Valiente. This is 20% increased damage whenever our shields are full. Now, this might not always be up, but for bosses, for example, if you're walking into a boss at the start of a fight, it will be up. And a lot of the times when you're entering new areas, this is up. So it's just a bunch of extra damage dealt for us. And it unlocks our new row of skills. Now here, things start to get really interesting. And my favorite tree in all of Rafa's, all of his trees, is this left side for ricochets. Now, ricochets and understanding indirect projectiles is a little bit confusing. So basically, indirect projectiles from this gain increased damage. Indirect projectiles include all action skill weapons, thrown guns, and projectiles not fired from your gun. So your Peacebreaker cannons directly get a 45% increased damage from this. If you're throwing Tediors, they get 45%. If you're throwing a throwing knife, they get increased damage from this. Yeah, there's a lot of cool things. There's a shield that fires missiles at enemies that gets 45% increased damage from this. Just a fantastic skill. And also, Jacob's ricochets will also get benefits from this. Not the actual Jacob shots, but Jacob's ricochets. Then we're going to put 1 point into hostile acquisition. If you wanted to, you can put more. I've found 10% lifesteal is just enough, more than enough to keep our survivability up and make us hard to kill. You could put another point in here, but it's going to make a lot more sense once we get down to the double auto shot. By the way, for augments here, I actually don't like Hell in the Shell. It is very flashy. However, it just is very hard to target. A lot of times I was using this, I was missing. So if you're better than me, you could rock it, but I think Instantito is just better overall. The other things are the unmissable missiles. These are pretty solid. However, you're gonna lose a bunch of duration when you're shooting them. I just personally still prefer Instatito because of the uptime that they give. Next, we're going to be putting 5 points into Errant Spark. This reads all indirect projectiles deal bonus incendiary damage. If the indirect projectile already does incendiary damage, double the bonus damage. So this gives us 40% bonus incendiary damage on our Peacebreaker cannons, which is crazy. And anything else that's already dealing incendiary damage gets double that bonus. So we're going to be using like a Fire Jacobs, which I'll show you how to get. That's just going to get like 80% bonus incendiary damage, which is crazy. Then put another point into lateral plinking. Let me move my camera real quick. This is our indirect projectiles gain a chance to ricochet. Our indirect projectiles get a chance to ricochet. You can get a class mod into this. So anytime your Peacebreaker cannons are shooting, now they have a 50% chance to ricochet, which is absurd. It's going to really help with clear speed, but also with single target. And this is also going to unlock our double auto shot. Now, this is where the build fully comes online. As soon as you pick up these shotguns, everything just starts to evaporate. You will no longer really need to shoot your gun all that much. This reads that Peacebreaker cannons are replaced with shotguns that deal increased damage and have an increased pellet count. Additionally, Rafa's turrets gain a chance to ricochet off of targets. Ricochets deal reduced damage, and critical hits always ricochet. That next part is pretty important. Critical hits always ricochet. That's why we're going to be using Instatito here. You could rock like other things. For example, Bullet Buddy Deluxe gives you like bonus incendiary damage so that these deal more incendiary damage. However, Instatito just seems to kind of break these things because you're going to get so much crit chance and when so much chance to ricochet that things just evaporate. I've tested a few of them and a few of the different augments. Trust me, Instatito with these double auto shotguns go dummy crazy. And then you get a bit of a choice for like what you want to go into next. There's a few things that are really nice to pick up. I would probably, at this point, your shotguns are going to be dealing so much damage that I personally focus on them. So we're going to do something a bit weird. But around that point, you'll be like around, I believe, level 30. But we're going to put 5 points into Midnight Oil. This reads that Rafa's action skills deal bonus corrosive damage per stack of Midnight Oil. Rafa gains a stack of Midnight Oil every second his action skill is active, losing all stacks when action skill ends. Once again, as long as there's enemies in front of you, you're going to be critting them so much that you can basically keep up your Peacebreaker cannons. So this is just a free 50% bonus corrosive damage. So now they're going to be hitting really hard. They're going to be ricocheting. They're dealing 40% bonus incendiary and 50% bonus corrosive. For 5 points here, it's just a massive damage pickup. Next, we're going to go back into Red Tree. If you are using splash weapons, Barrage is fantastic. Gives you a ton of extra splash damage. I wasn't really using splash weapons, so I went into Everdrive, which give me increased overdrive duration, meaning that all of my bonuses are going to last basically all the time, because they last after your action skill ends, and then this will make it so they last even longer, and usually you can get your action skill back by that time. And then the real reason we're here is for Tamario. Tamario is going to give us 50% gun damage for 5 points, which is fantastic. It is going to reduce our gun handling. We're not going to worry about that. I'll show you why in a second. And then the real kicker here is Soltado. Kill skill, double all overdrive bonuses. This lasts for 8 seconds, but this Tamario 50% gun damage is now 100% gun damage, which is wild. This is really, really, really nice. And this gives us 6 more points to spend. Now, I wanted to feel fast on Rafa. There are some other cool points that you could spend, but I really, really like putting it into Expedite. This is an overdrive skill, which gives us increased movement speed. And with Soltado, now we have 50% increased movement speed when we pick that up next, which makes us very, very fast, really, really fun to play. And it's going to make you a lot more efficient for farming. And then this last point, you could technically put wherever. I'm going to put it into Proprietary Incendiary. This gives you a melee override to launch a like STRM glider that deals incendiary damage. This actually does like a real good amount of damage. It'll one-shot a lot of mobs that you come across, so it's just kind of fun to have. Once again, you could probably put that point anywhere, but just for the fun of it, I put it into this. That's going to do it for that's our skill tree for Rafa. Note that I didn't spec down to like Pain Reaction, which gives us gun ricochet chance. The reason I'm not doing that is because we're not really relying on our guns all that much from damage. Our Peacebreaker cannons are going to be doing most of the work, so this isn't all that important for us. The other thing that you could do that I was originally spec'd into, but I decided against it, was spec'ing all the way through Green Tree to get Collaborative Ignition. This gives us even more bonus damage on our Peacebreaker cannons, which is really nice, but I didn't love the points that you needed to spend to get there. And the other thing is this puts all of our damage and all of our focus in the Peacebreaker cannon, so when they're down, we don't really do anything. Going to this right side allows us to get 100% gun damage, so if your Peacebreaker cannons go down, you've got the overdrive duration to basically power you up, so that you don't have to worry about like losing all your damage when your cooldown or when your action skill ends. There's a lot of really cool legendaries that you can use on Rafa. However, there's a lot of cool legendaries that you can use on Rafa. I don't want to like spoil or show too much, but one that I absolutely recommend picking up is the Phantom Flame. This is a Jacob's pistol that comes in fire element. It'll always come in fire, and it is Jacob's, so it'll ricochet. You can find like other like random roll Jacob's elemental things, but this will always be a fire elemental Jacob's, which is perfect for Rafa. And it has the unique perk that when you zoom in, you will hold it on a target and will lock in, and all of your shots will hit that enemy, meaning that if you're moving super fast, like we're going to be moving on Rafa, you don't have to worry about missing your shots, basically. And so, super great weapon. If you want to come farm it, from the Fade Fields, if you exit the Fade Fields and just follow this road goes all the way up. You'll find a safe house on the left, the makeshift chalet, and then just to the right of that is the Tender Cage Ripper drill site. This is where you're going to farm for this weapon. There's also a sniper rifle that drops from here that is also very good. For your rep kit, I'm still using like a lot of old gear, but look for things that give you leech, things that give you fire rate, things that give you action skill cooldown rate, and anything that gives you a good amount of healing is really, really nice. For your ordnance, I personally really like the amp payload penetrator knives. These are tricky to find. However, for example, this gives all of your damage critical hits for 5 seconds, so you can guarantee all of the crits on your Peacebreaker cannons, which means that they're all going to be ricocheting and doing ridiculous amounts of damage. Just really great setup for you. For your class mod, look for things with action skill damage and things that give you action skill cooldown rate, as well as like pistol damage is nice to find. This particular class mod specs a ton of points into Errant Spark, which gives you bonus incendiary damage and more damage to your indirect projectiles. This is like a crazy class mod. There's also a legendary class mod for the Instigator that allows your Peacebreaker cannons to stack up increasing gun damage for you, and they can spec into points like Deft Hands, as well as increased ricochet chance for your shotguns. This is also really nice. For your shield, anything works, but the Fireworks shield is a shield that you can farm from the very first boss in the game. He'll scale up in level, so you can always go get like a new one. You're specifically looking for a Fireworks in fire element or fire resist. Anytime that you kill an enemy, this will spawn missiles that do a massive amount of damage. However, these missiles are considered indirect projectiles, meaning that they're going to get all of this increased damage. They're going to get, if you have a fire one, 80% bonus fire damage, and they can ricochet, meaning that like this shield will carry you very hard if you pick one up. It's incredibly strong and will just help with your mobbing a whole lot. For your enhancement, look for things that give your Jacob's weapons enhancements, so like this giving you ricochets on non-critical hits. Piercer's nice, with your Jacob's license parts have a 20% chance to critical hit, as well as if you're like bossing or doing single targets with the knife, guns with Jacob's license parts grant consecutive critical hits of stacking 5% bonus damage for a maximum of 8 stacks. If you're shooting a penetrator knife at an enemy, all your shots are going to be crits, and then this just stacks up a bunch of extra damage for you. For your specializations, I strongly recommend rushing down into Daredevil as fast as possible. This is going to give you increased action skill cooldown rate. You can also pick up Now with Caffeine, which gives your 25% action skill cooldown reduction whenever you use a rep kit. I Am a Gun. Action skill damage now benefits from increases to gun damage. Action skill damage is 50% of increases to gun damage. Note that we have 100% increases to gun damage in one node, so this is 50% action skill damage now. That's part of the reason why we spec that. It's incredibly powerful. And then A Honed Mind gives our action skills another 5% crit chance and 50% more crit damage, which is disgusting. And we've also got a ton of movement speed, so we can pick up Bullet Train. Vault Hunter can now hip fire while sprinting and gains gun damage the faster they move. We're going to be flying around. This is going to give us even more gun damage, which also translates into more action skill damage with I Am a Gun. Guys, that's going to do it for our Rafa leveling guide. I hope you enjoyed. If you're looking for any more resources for Borderlands 4, I'll have a bunch of links in the description for like general guides, farming guides, things to look out for, and more, and like things I wish I knew. I will catch y'all in the next one, guys. Take care. Peace.